Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your weekly episode of The Chop with Marvin Lee. Um, I'll be joined here momentarily by my friend Kristie, who's going to be sharing her story of hope. She found hope in a hopeless situation. Um, so I'm going to give her a minute to get signed in. I had a couple of things that I was working on earlier, so I'm might seem to be just a little preoccupied, but I'm here with you guys. I hope everybody had a phenomenal week since last week. I hope that you guys were able to do something kind for yourself or for yourselves rather, and something kind for somebody else, something loving for yourself, something loving for somebody else. Hope you've been able to encourage, motivate, inspire somebody else. Because at the end of the day, if we want to continue moving forward in our own lives, what's up, Daryl? If we want to continue moving forward in our own lives and find some sense of peace or some sense of uh, fulfillment or joy, we can find that serving other people. And that's something that I figured that out when I was a kid. It's just something that I'm no stranger to, right? Um, and I'm grateful that I have the experiences that I have, and that I've made connections with people that I have have amazing connections with. It just I've been able to find myself by identifying with other people. I know that I'm not on an island by myself. I know that I'm not terminally unique. I know that all the things that I thought were wrong with me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. It turns out that there's so many more people that are like me than are not. Um, I understand my place in this world, how I fit in this world. Uh, and I've learned to respect myself in this world. And respect me, that's not a problem. I have to respect me. Most people will be like, well, you don't have to respect me. Oh, you mean somebody to disrespect you? Absolutely not. I respect myself enough to know that there's no other respect I need than my respect. Step into the table to reflect or to mirror where I am and what I have going on. Guess what? I get to walk away. I get to tolerate them right where they are, because at the end of the day, how do I want somebody to respect me that doesn't even respect themselves? That's crazy, you know. So I'm just one of those people. Hey, Tiffany, I'm just one of those people that, as I continue to grow into myself and grow into my own graces. Hey, Catherine, Basam, what's up? Um, I just understand who I am. And the more I age, the more I understand who I am, the less I'm concerned about everybody else. Because something that I've come to understand is this absolutely, it doesn't cost me anything. It does not cost me anything to mind my own business. It's completely and totally free. Doesn't cost me anything. But it pays the greatest dividends, like peace. I don't have to deal with the drama, chaos, all the extra. I mean, I'm extra as it is on my own. I don't need Kristie, I'm waiting on you to join me, sweetheart. I don't need to I don't need any of my own extra, that's just uh, but at the end of the day, grateful for who I am. I'm able to know who I am. I do what I am because of that. Uh, Kristie, to Lordales20 at gmail.com. I sent it to you. Um, Well, hello, Christy.
Hello.
I knew I sent the link to you. I was like, I sent it. I sent it
Yeah.
right when I was
Yeah, you sent
finishing
it.
my
I just
meal.
didn't see it.
It's okay. It's okay. Um, I don't know what's going on with my um service, but at any
It's,
rate,
it's
welcome
a little
to the
choppy.
platform. Huh?
It's a little choppy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I mean, it comes through clear online. But how are you? How have you been? What are you up to before we jump into everything?
I'm good. I'm just working and staying clean. Yep.
How much time do you have now?
I have 5 years. Let's see, February, March, April, 5 years, 2 months, and uh, 11 days.
Okay. So what has your process been like? Let's take me back to the beginning, not the beginning of your recovery. So take me back to the horrors of the lifestyle that you tried so long to break free from. Take me back to those days before you bring me forward to the day when you found that light, that hope. And I want you to talk about that, but I want you to go back for a little bit because what I want to do is I want somebody to be able to hear what you're saying and have it resonate with them because maybe you're going to say something that I can't say and they'll hear something that they won't hear
Right.
when I say it. So, what does that look
Yeah.
like for you, Christy?
Well, I mean, just quick trip to the back of where I started out is, my mom passed away in a car accident the day after my 26th birthday, and I lost my mind. I I tried to move, and I tried to this, and I tried to that to try to deal with it, and I couldn't. And 6 months later, I ended up in a spot where, you know, somebody was passing around some meth, and I picked up, and I really liked it. I have sleep
Mm-hmm.
apnea. I have a host of other medical conditions and stuff. And I found out that when I used, it made everything go away. And like it made the pain go away. The not only the internal pain that I was feeling of, losing my mom, it made me not think about it all the time. It I started noticing that it also took away the pain of, just medical issues that were at that time undiagnosed. Now I understand, I have certain medical conditions that cause pain, and it's several medical conditions that cause pain. But I started noticing like I could do things. Not only was I awake, because sleep apnea is also one of my issues. I could stay awake. I could do things, get things done, and I didn't have to feel the pain from it, and the
Mm-hmm.
physical pain or the emotional pain. And I used for a good 4 months, and my ex-husband was like, he saw me going down, you know, dark path, and he was like, enough's enough, and so he made me quit. And I remember, like clawing at the bed. I couldn't even stand to have sheets on the bed. Just that detox, like that's the detox I remember. And so I was able to quit, and let's
There's
fast
there's
forward
something you
16 years. Go
there's
ahead.
something you said just a moment ago. You said that when you first used the meth, that it made you forget things. In terms of
Mhm.
it took away the pain, uh, the feelings, like the different things. And as you were saying that, because that's the deception, and because I was the same way with any substance. I don't really talk about the substances I use if it was a substance I used it, right? Uh,
Right,
but it's amazing that we think or that we thought that the drugs were taking the pain away when in all actuality it wasn't doing any of that. It was just taking
no,
us, it was just taking, it was removing us from that situation. The pain was still
right.
there. We just didn't care. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
part of that powerlessness, the unmanageability, and the the mentality in the moment when I'm using it's not. I'm just not thinking about it.
Right.
Just because I can't see the
Exactly.
wind doesn't mean it's not there. So
Right.
just because I wasn't aware of the pain, it didn't mean the pain wasn't there. It just means that I'm so focused on this drug and now the
Yep.
effects of the drug that I'm not thinking about the light bill,
Oh
the
yeah,
wife, the
exactly.
husband, the kids, the job. I'm not thinking about any of this stuff. I'm not thinking it, and that's where
Right.
the unmanageability came from. But you were about to say, I know you said that your husband had made you quit, and you were talking about your detox experience.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about that in terms of what did that process look like for you? How grueling or how gruesome, how how much of a
Oh,
what was that process like?
I like I said, I couldn't even stand the sheets on the bed. I couldn't stand the skin that I was in. It was just everything was just crawling. I was miserable, and I just felt like I wanted to die because, and especially since I knew something that would make it all go away.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, like you were just saying, it's not that it necessarily went away, because let me tell you, all that shit was still there when
Mm-hmm.
I came out on the other side, and
Mm-hmm.
the drugs were getting out of my system. All that shit was still there. Every bit of it, that pain, the hurt, being tired all the time, all of it was still there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the drugs didn't take it away. It pushed it
Delayed it.
aside. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just pushed it aside, and it was just sitting on the sidelines waiting for, me to get clean.
Right.
And I say get clean, but like I still drank, and occasionally, during there was a 16-year gap of my DOC. Um, and I was not in recovery. I didn't do anything towards any recovery related anything. I didn't, um, I there was like the relationship that I was in was very abusive. And, that's one thing I always say is, that time when, when he had me, come off that drug was like, that was like one of the best things that he ever did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing is, like, he didn't immediately stop also. I mean, like, he tried it first, and I saw how, like, he was acting on it and everything, and then that's when I used it, and then, I, like, thought it was okay, but I was going, like, head first really fast,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Okay, you need to slow your roll. Like, you need to slow your roll, because I
So,
was."
so let me ask you this, because and condolences about your mom. I know you said that it was the day after your 26th birthday you lost your mom in a car accident. So prior to that time, you had never used any substances in your life.
Yeah, I had drank a little bit, smoked some weed, and, just like the normal, just casual stuff, and like, even when I smoked, it was more of a social thing. I didn't like how I felt. I mean, I'll just be straight up and, out there with it. I got high, got horny, and went to sleep before I could do anything about being horny. So it's kind of a pointless thing for me. So I was
Right.
just like, you know, like, why am I doing this? But then my ex-husband, he was really into it, and like every once in a while he'd be like, oh, I hate partying by myself, and like, so just to basically shut him up, I would smoke it with him. But it was one of those things, that there was probably an argument that happened beforehand before I finally said, okay, fine, you know.
Mhm.
And when I would drink, it was like, um, I would choose whether I was going to get blasted that night, or if I was just going to have a drink or two.
Mhm.
Like I had, control over, alcohol, because I could make that choice. Now, not to say every single time. Like, there might have been a time that, a couple times that I felt like, oh, I'm just going to have a couple drinks. But then, next thing I know, everybody's drinking way too much. And I was right there with them. But that was one of those like rare occasions. Um, but when I found my DOC, that was my love affair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll get more into, when I say love affair, what I mean exactly by that a little bit later on. But it was
Oh,
a true
good.
love affair.
This is your, I mean, you just flow with, I'm gonna follow along with you and I'll ask the questions. You're basically sharing your story. Because at the end of the day, it starts out as a love affair, and then it turns into an abusive relationship, and then it
Oh yeah.
turns into a nightmare of a relationship, and then it finally gets to a
Mhm.
place where it's detrimental to your survival. So at that point, what does it take for you? What is it that happens that finally triggers you into saying, you know what, no more? I know this started out fun for me, and this I thought is what I wanted, but there's something that's just not right about this, and this is
Right.
unbecoming of me as an individual. This is unsettling for me. What was that process like for you?
Honestly, that process before I quit 5+ years ago, I didn't hit that point before I quit. And I know that sounds very strange. After I had quit, after the 4-month run, 16 years fast forward, left the abusive marriage, went down to Florida, started my life over, thought I was doing really good, got remarried, and thought that was going to be going great. But 3 months after I married him, I found out a lot started that shouldn't have been brought into a marriage 3 months prior. So that marriage, I don't even think it lasted a year. So
Mhm.
I got out of that, moved on, started dating someone else, and he was dabbling in this and that, and I was getting very tired. I didn't feel like I could, you know, that I had enough energy to do everything that I needed to do. Like, I was given a position at my new job, and I couldn't handle it because it was too much. I mean, I was promoted, but there was nobody there to replace me. So I was taking on the job of two people. And I kept telling my bosses, I'm like, I can't handle it. I need some help. Like, and they were like, you're our right hand. You got it. We have faith in you. We believe in you. Like, do whatever it takes. That was the permission slip I needed. Do
Mhm.
whatever it takes. I'm like, okay, I need more hours in the day. How can I get more hours in the day? When is the only other time I have ever found more hours in the day? When I was using my DOC.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I purposely went out and sought it out. Like, I was online, I was, on all these dating sites, like figuring out, like, the first thing to do is get in there and get the guys talking and everything, and seeing if they party, and then just go down that road. And I would find out, to weed out the right people. Cause I mean, I wasn't the girl who was going to go down to, the down in the hardest part of Pompano, and start digging around and trying to find out stuff. I decided to hide behind the internet, and you know what? It didn't take me long to find what I needed.
Mhm.
And
I apologize to you because I have several messages that are popping up and my phone rang. That was
yeah,
my mom calling me,
yeah,
and I had to respond,
that's fine.
because my mom, and this never
I
happens to
hear
me on a
you.
Monday night. But carry
Yeah,
on. I just want to, if I keep looking at my phone, that's because
I'd be
some
doing the
things are
same
going on
thing
back.
if my mom was still here. I'd be doing the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
And
So
more than likely, before we're done here, my dad will call. I'm
yeah.
almost putting money on it.
Yeah.
Um, but
And I'm grateful that I have the relationship that I have with my mom now, because one of the things that I know, and I'm sure this was true for you as well, with your father, and I'm not certain if if you remarried or what the situation was there, if you have a step parent, but our loved ones, the way that we allow the drugs to convince us that we're not what everybody else says we are. We are who we say we are. Um,
Mhm.
there's so many different personas that come along with that, to the
Right.
point that we don't necessarily understand the hurt, or the damage that we cause other people. And so, with my mom now, I
Right.
mean, I'm grateful that I'm just open and transparent. I can talk about these things now. It's not that I
Right.
couldn't talk about it before. And it wasn't that they weren't aware of what I was doing. I just wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I couldn't talk about me because I didn't love me.
Right.
And I didn't feel like anybody else loved me either. And then now I'm aggressive and argumentative and defensive, whatnot. So what did that look like for you in terms of the relationship with your dad, the relationship with your loved ones throughout that process? What was that like for you?
Well, with my dad specifically, the dad I'm talking about is my bio dad, and we really didn't have much of a relationship at all, and now, hindsight's 2020, and he'll tell me all the time, like, why didn't you reach out to me? Why didn't you contact me? Why didn't you let me know? Whatever, blah blah blah. I'm like, we didn't have that type of relationship, like I couldn't, and plus I didn't want to,
Hmm.
there was still so many resentments and stuff that's behind all of that, like he, from what I've been told, he walked out on my second birthday, and I didn't meet him again until I was 15. And then there was ended up being, a court case where I might have taken charges out on him. And, like there was a lot in the in between. And really, it's since I got clean is when we really built our relationship, and now he calls me every day.
Hmm.
Um, but my stepdad, he's the one who raised me, and he's the one who, like, I don't get to talk to him as often, but he's, he's a more of a quiet person, whatever. And I know, like, I spent so much of my life, like you, I'm a Leo, so I know you understand. Like, we strive to show people like who we are and that we can do whatever. Especially if somebody says we can't do something, watch
Hmm.
me, watch me.
I'm
Like,
not so much like that. I'm not so much like that anymore. And I'm going to tell you why. For me, I've learned, you know what? Gangsters move in silence. That's
right,
just my thing now.
right,
I don't.
right,
Everybody doesn't need to know my next plan, because guess what?
exactly.
If you know
Yep,
my next move, you can lay a trap for me. If you don't know what direction I'm coming from or headed to, you can't counter me. So
exactly.
I
And
just
that's my growth today too. I'm right there
yeah,
with you
yeah.
because I used to look at Leos like there's two Leos. You have the look at me Leos, and then you have the I know everything. I mean, I'm Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, whatever. We know everything, and I found that for a long time I was just the, I'm right about everything. And then I became, a merge between that and the look at me Leo when I was using, because I was so silenced in my first marriage that I didn't know how to have a voice. And it's crazy because one thing, like, I can't be mad that I'm an addict, and I know that sounds very strange, but I learned a lot about myself in active addiction, into, and of course tons more after getting clean. You know, like I said, when I came into this process, like, I didn't want this.
Mhm.
I did not want to get clean.
I
I
don't think
got
any of us
arrested.
do. I don't think any of us do. That's why a lot
Right.
of us go kicking, screaming, scratching, clawing. It's not that
Yep,
there are those who don't want it, because there are those we do.
exactly.
The disease is so powerful and um, so just powerful and so
Mhm.
destructive and so um, overbearing, overwhelming. Um, any demonstrative word that you can throw in right there
Right.
to describe it, that is what it is. And it's like it just grips you, and it eats away at your whole soul.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and 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 the part of you that wants to make a decision to do the right thing, say the right thing, go or the right place, be around the right people. It's like you become something that you've never thought that you would be.
Right.
And for me, it's sitting here now looking back. I'm so grateful that we were able to make it out. So grateful.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And, when you talk about how, you know, basically that monster inside of us, I mean, when I speak at meetings and stuff, I often, I let everybody know. I mean, I had become a lying, cheating, drug addicted, drug dealing whore in active addiction. And that's where using took me. I became all of that. And all of that are things that I've despised before. I remember looking at my ex brother in law who was an addict. And I'm like, and every time my sister in law would say, well, he slipped again. I'm like, bubble wrap the motherfucker because I'm sorry. My mouth,
Yeah.
bubble wrap it because, he's going to break something eventually, And I remember being that judgmental about another addict. And then here I sit. Hi, my name is,
And
and
this is to not, you were talking about this earlier, the self-righteous aspect of things, because and my family knows this about me. I was a kid. I love books. I love knowledge. I was a little brainiac, and it's not that I tried to know more than anybody else. That was my thing. Knowledge, information. I had a knack for information. I had a knack for numbers. I see a number one time, I can memorize. My memory was really good, even up until this day. I'm the same way. It's just like I see something, I memorize. I don't let it go. If I hear something that like hear historical information, things that I know, you can't unknow what you know.
right,
And something that I always felt. What's up, Jared? Something that I always felt is that if I didn't have much because we were poor growing up, but my education, you can't take that from me. That's the
right,
one thing that it belongs to me, and you can't
right,
take that from me. And I showed a great amount of pride in knowing what I knew
right,
until it got to the point that I was trying to outwit everybody else. And um, I weaponized my intellect as a kid. So that's where the manipulation started for me, and the conniving. And my mom would even tell you this, and I remember her saying this. I was one of the most manipulative, vindictive, conniving people that you would ever see, right? Um,
right,
and a lot of that just it had to do with me. It got me noticed. It brought me attention, but I know now that all attention is not good attention, but I didn't know that then.
right,
But when I was able to connect with the people who had the substances, right? Now all of a sudden, I start morphing and changing into even a different version of the person that now I think I know you a little more, and I'm a little more articulate in how I express this, and just so many different things. So, what was that like for you? Like the social setting, whenever because you were talking about earlier, like how the substance will make the pain go away, or whatever the case may be. I want you to speak to the nature of that false sense of security, that I'm the life of the party kind of mentality. Um,
right.
that jolt of energy. Let's talk about that for a minute. What did that look like for you?
Oh yeah, like once I started actually, started dealing, like I was the one that people, was looking for and relying on. And I'm late for everything in my life, but I guarantee when I was doing that, I was one of those that would be there within 20 minutes. But like I'm late for doctor's appointments even to today. Like I'm grateful for 15-minute grace periods, you know. And because I was within 20 minutes, I mean, any of us that's ever used know that that's like that's the dealer you never find, because they're 3 days away and only 20 minutes away all the time. They're 20 minutes away and 3 days later you might see them, but because I was the reliable one for once in my life, like I was the one that they called, they knew that they could count on. And then I ended up, after becoming homeless, ended up the queen of a trap house, basically. And so I was the one who pretty much called the shots there. And having all that power coming out of a marriage where I didn't have any, like, talk about going to your head. Like, it really went to my head. And a lot of times, even today, the lifestyle is one of the hardest things to break. Even after I've got clean, I went back to the trap house. I tried to hang out there. How I left clean? Only
A lot
because
of,
of my higher
a
power.
lot of people make that mistake. Yeah, a lot of people make that mistake. And let me ask you this: how does that make you feel? Like, because I was just listening to you when you made the comment that um, when I did that, I was always on time, and we know what that is. I was always on time. I was
Mhm,
reliable. Um, because you're one of many, and I've struggled with this myself. And then we find this new way of living, and this newfound freedom, and
mhm,
this new hope, and this new life, and we began to thrive. But now all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we are a little tardy, not just a little tardy. We're not showing up, or
mhm,
um, and what is how does that make you hear yourself say that?
mhm.
Kristie, not punctual,
Can you
in her
repeat
life
that
of
last
recovery.
thing? You're breaking up real bad right now.
How does that make you feel hearing yourself make that comment? Uh, when you were reliable, you were always punctual. Now
Mhm,
that you're not using, and this is your new life, that life of freedom, and you're not
mhm.
punctual, you're not on time. How does that sound to you when you say that?
Oh, I can't stand it. I'm like, and it's like I try to. I'm like, that's one of those things that is just a thing that I'm constantly like working on. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave at this time. Like, I'll set, all these alarms and stuff, and it's like, not even being able to understand how I can be punctual when it came to that. But when it comes to doctor's appointments and stuff, I'm grateful for a 15-minute grace period because, you know, for some reason, I'm always running late. And for a long time, I would get mad about running late, but then I always think about now, this is just, I mean, if I'm running late and I leave my keys in the house and I have to go back in and get them or whatever, I don't get mad at those moments because I've learned through this process that sometimes things like that happen because you're being saved from some place you weren't supposed to be in a time that you weren't supposed to be there. Like, if I have to spend 2 minutes going back in my house to get my keys, that's because I needed to be 2 minutes behind in traffic because there might have been something going on up ahead that might have put me in a position where
I'm
something
gonna
could have
give you
happened.
that, but I'm gonna push back
But
on that
that's
a
not
little bit.
always the
I'm gonna
case.
push back on that. I was just about to say, because too many people
Yep.
use that excuse that it's just the fact that
Yep.
I'm just careless and I just forgot my keys,
Right.
because at the end of the day, for me, a real spiritual growth looks like this. I could be laying in I'm in my bed and I don't have to leave my keys in my apartment, because as I was laying in bed, or as I was, you know, meditating, preparing to my understanding, this is something he showed me. He said to me, "Don't move, stay put," whatever. So a lot of us
Right.
use that because it's common and that's something we can relate to. Um,
Mhm.
but I just want to not to say that it doesn't happen just the way you described it, but also at the same
Yep.
time, I think too many of us use it as an excuse. Something was going to happen. Yeah, something was going to happen. You were going to get to your destination earlier or on time.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know.
Um, and
um,
and most of the time, it's just because I did not plan properly. I didn't make sure that I had
That
everything lined up, and then therefore I was late. But the example,
and
yeah, the
that's where I was
example I was
going with
giving,
that.
yeah, the example I was giving is like a rare thing. You know,
Right.
that's not, if
Mhm.
that happens every single time, then that's not God's great intervention. That's we know what that is. Improper
That's
planning.
I need to go. Yeah, that's I need to get some ginkgo biloba so I can improve my memory.
Right,
uh,
exactly.
but this, I hate to do this because I am enjoying this, but my mama never called me twice in a row. She called before, she's called again, and she just left. Betty is not playing with me tonight. Something is, which she called me, and it's, I don't talk about things, right? So there are some things that are going around home right now. So if you call
Mhm.
me twice, it's important. So what I
Right,
want to do, I want to allow you to give a word of encouragement, a word of hope, motivation, inspiration, whatever. I want you to say whatever flows from your heart to those that are watching you right now that might be struggling, that are looking for
right,
answers, that are seeking help. They turn their lives around and be on that path where they can live a life of goodness, a life that they're thriving in. Because I've got to call my
right.
mom back. I don't,
Oh yeah,
because now my
absolutely.
mind is like, oh God,
Right. No, no, that's fine.
what what
Um,
what is that? What is your knowledge? What is your wisdom?
yes. So just, just to sum everything up, like I found out my DOC was the greatest love of my life because I remember speaking about it and saying, hey, like I felt things that I never felt for another human being. And that's when I knew that I never really understood what true love was because I never felt that way about a human as I did when I spoke about my drug of choice. And then so basically to wrap, like I said, wrap it up, three arrests in 6 months. Um and I had no choice but to quit. I woke up 10 days later in jail and was clean. And I I don't remember much of that detox. That's why I can only go back to, the first time I detoxed on my own, that how bad it is. Um, I racked up 22 charges within two of the three arrests. One of the arrests, my last arrest, I did go back clean. I had like 3 months clean at that time, and I had a violation. So I went back clean and got back out on ankle monitor and was facing the the minimum. I was actually minimum on one of my charges was 3 years. I was offered a great deal of 2 years in prison for all of my charges. I decided to fight it and just do everything that I was told to do in the beginning with no intentions of staying clean, only until I got out of trouble. But somewhere along the working the 12 steps with a sponsor, I decided I wanted to stay clean. And December of 23, I believe it was, I was sentenced to 5 years probation.
Mhm.
No, not 23. What am I talking about? 21. I was sentenced to 5 years probation. And a year and 3 months later, I applied for early termination of probation, and everybody said, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. They're going to make you do at least 2.5 years. You're not going to get it. And I said, well, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to ask for it. If they say no, I'm in no worse position than I was when I first walked in. I'll be in the same position. I'll still be on probation. Not a big deal. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I was given till the year 2025 to pay off my fines. I paid all of them off in 8 months. I did my community service, everything. And a year and 3 months, I was granted. At a year is when I actually applied for early termination. At a year and 3 months, I was granted early termination of my probation because I had completed everything that was required of me. And since then, I've sponsored many women. Sponsorship is very, very important, you know, and it's not just about your sponsor sponsee relationship. It's about the sponsorship family relationship, because sometimes, you know, that one person is not going to be able to pick up the phone. You got to have somebody else to call, you know, having a network. Recently, right before my 5 years, I was freaking out. I wanted to use more than I ever wanted to use since I got clean. I didn't think that there was any meetings around me. And I found a meeting, not necessarily an NA or an AA or any of the A's, but it's called a recovery meeting. And it's all I needed. I remember driving down the road that night and I was like, please let somebody be there. Please let somebody be there. Because I did attempt to go one other time. It was during an ice storm, but and nobody was there. So this time I was like, please let somebody be there. And I drove up to the building. I saw one car and I said, that's all I need, because all it takes is two people to have a meeting. I saw one car. And by the time the meeting started, there was like 8 of us. And I have not missed a Friday night meeting in person at this meeting place since then, because they helped me get where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because 3 months ago, I wanted to use worse than I've ever wanted to use. But I knew that if I used, I would lose the life that I have today. Today, I have a great life. I'm coming up on 4.5 years with the company that I'm working with. It was a job that I started down in South Florida, and now I live in Mississippi. And funny thing though, you know, God's got jokes for me, because I said when I got out of this trouble, I would never return to Alabama or Mississippi. I was first transferred to Alabama and we moved to Mississippi a year later. So,
That's why you never
okay,
say
God.
never. That's why
Yep,
you never say
exactly.
never.
Exactly. So, but I've been very blessed. And actually, I just picked up a new sponsee from the Friday night meeting I go to. So I have a sponsee. Sponsorship can work over state lines. I still have a sponsee that I've been sponsoring since I was in Florida. She's doing great. I've got a sponsee up in Massachusetts, and I've got a sponsee now here locally. So sponsorship's very important. But you know, even if all the cards are stacked against you, you know, go for it anyways. But you know, the only answer, I mean, the only question, the only stupid question is what I'm trying to say. The only stupid question is the one that's never asked. You know, I was told you're never going to get early termination at 1 year and 3 months, or 1 year or whatever. It took 3 months to get my, you know, to get my case heard. And I went in there with everything. I went in there with character reference letters. I documented everything. I documented every time I completed a step. I documented everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I had copies for everybody. You know, I came in there looking like I had my shit together. And, you know, miracles happen. And
Absolutely.
even though
Absolutely.
I didn't even want this, but here I am.
So my takeaway is it sounds like this process is one that works and it doesn't require our permission. It only requires our participation. And one
Yeah,
guarantee is that things will get better if we stay in the process, no matter how good
exactly.
things feel or no matter how bad things might seem to
Right.
feel. As long as we stay in the process,
Yep.
we're going to
And
be
man, I've
okay.
seen your growth. I've seen your growth. I was like, I remember seeing you outside the old Serenity, man. And I mean, I was like, who does he think he is? He coming here all loud and proud.
I thought I was me,
I was,
and
I
I'm
was
still me.
thinking,
I'm just a quieter version of me. I'm just a more put
exactly,
together
exactly.
version.
That's what I love about you.
Yes, I'm more secure. Now, don't get it twisted. That energy is still there, but I know
We
when to
all know
tap
when you're in the
into it.
room.
You know, I know. Well, you know, somebody made a comment to me last week, as a matter of fact, or the Wednesday before. No, it was last week, and this really touched my heart. And they said to me, and this is somebody that has a significant amount of time, somebody that I look up to. And they say, you know what? Something about you, you can feel your spirit. Your spirit enters the room before you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for me, that was the greatest compliment anybody could pay to me,
Right.
because that's just a testament of the work that I've done on myself
That's the
and that I
reason
continue to
I've
do.
followed your recovery. You know, I look up to you. You have like
Well,
three,
we look
I
up
think
to
you
each
got 2.5
other.
months.
We look up to each other.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna let
Yeah.
nobody look up at me like that. No, won't do it. Because you know what? I don't want anybody to put me on a pedestal anywhere. Because guess what? I don't
Right.
want to fall. I'm right here with
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Right here.
Yep.
You know, I'm just willing to do the work. Um, I have enjoyed this session with you. I really have.
Yes, and
But
you
my
need to
mind, I'm
call
just
your
sitting here
mom.
thinking to myself, I'm gonna call my mom. 2
I
phone
wish
calls
I
in
could
one
call
night. Yeah.
mine.
Yeah, she doesn't
Yep.
play. But before we go, next Monday night, same time, same place, I'm gonna have a I got an idea of who I want to interview next week. And as much as I don't like the city of Philadelphia, no, I'm kidding. I like Philly. I just don't like the Eagles. Jared, Henry. Anyways, a buddy of mine from Philly. I definitely want to speak with him next week. But again, next Monday night, 8:30 Eastern. I challenge you guys to do something loving for yourselves between now and then. Do something loving for somebody else. Do something kind for yourself. Do something kind for somebody else. Show yourself grace. Show somebody else grace. Believe in yourself. Believe in somebody else. See what changes you can make over this week. This has been another episode of The Chop with Marvin Lee and Kristie T. I hope to see you guys back here next week. Kristie, I love you. I'm proud of you. Thanks for
Love you
joining me.
too.
And I'm going to call my mama because I'm not gonna be down by baby, okay?
Yep. And next time you go visit her, give her an extra big hug from me.
I got you.
I
I can
can't
do
hug
that.
mine,
Oh,
so I'll send your mom one.
I got you. Love you. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.